we reopen the economy, there is broad consensus across the political and economic spectrum. The furlough scheme cannot continue indefinitely. 2 weeks ago, I outlined the principles of my approach. The furlough scheme will remain open all the way until October. We will ask employers to start contributing as we also introduce flexible furloughing. And employees will see no change to their level of support. I believe it is right, in the final phase of this 8-month scheme, to ask employers to contribute alongside the taxpayer towards the wages of their staff. But I understand too that businesses and employers have been through an incredibly difficult time. So I have decided to ask employers to pay only a modest contribution, introduced slowly over the coming months. In June and July, the scheme will continue as before, with no employer contribution at all. In August, the taxpayer contribution to people's wages will stay at 80%. Employers will only be asked to pay national insurance and employer pension contributions, which for the average claim account for just 5% of total employment costs. By September, employers will have had the opportunity to make any necessary changes to their workplaces and business practices. Only then, in the final 2 months of this 8-month scheme, will we ask employers to start paying towards people's wages. In September, taxpayers will pay 70% of the furlough grant, with employers contributing 10%. In October, taxpayers will pay 60% and employers will contribute 20%. Then, after 8 months of this extraordinary intervention, of the government stepping in to help pay people's wages, the scheme will close. To protect jobs and help businesses decide how quickly to bring their workforce back, we are introducing a new, more flexible furlough. This is a critical part of our plan to kickstart the economy. So HMRC and the Treasury have worked hard to put the flexible furlough in place, not from August the 1st as originally planned, but from July the 1st, 1 month early. From July the 1st, employers will have the maximum possible flexibility to decide on the right arrangements for them and their furloughed staff. For instance, if you are watching at home and on furlough, your employer could bring you back 2 days a week. They would pay you for those 2 days as normal, while the furlough scheme would continue to cover you for the other 3 working days. To allow us to introduce this new flexible furlough from July the 1st, we will need to close the old scheme to new entrants on June the 30th. Employers wanting to place new employees on the scheme will need to do this by June the 10th, to allow them time to complete the minimum furlough period before then.